Welcome back. I wanted to review Tom Lee and his Granny Shots portfolio in this video. Tom Lee is a highly respected analyst and he's made a lot of calls correctly, especially around bull markets. He has more recently started an ETF, which is the Granny Shots ETF, and it's doing quite well. I'll show you the performance of his fund. I'll also show you where he ranks among the other super investors I'm tracking. More importantly, I think there's something to learn from Tom. He really spells out his fund's strategy, and I think there's some interesting stocks that I wanted to point out that he's got in the fund and the reasons why he has them in the fund. So we'll take a look at individual stocks that are in that fund that are maybe good ideas to consider, or maybe you already own the stocks and it would be just a little more confidence that you're owning some pretty good stocks. So just again, an introduction to Tom Lee. He's really good. I tend to listen to all his interviews. At times it seems like he's a perma bull, but let's just face it, the market's been doing great. And during times when the market does show like it's going to really sell off for a while, he goes right back to it and talks about why the market should rally. And I guess over the last 5 years, he's been right. So uh, he's got a great deal of credibility on Wall Street, and I certainly listen to him. So the strategy behind the Granny Shots portfolio that Tom has is he tries to buy stocks that are part of a theme that is really going to work. And these are short-term themes and long-term themes. And I wanted to go over really the best stocks that, according to his process, I wanted to show you which ones he thinks are the best. So you want the stocks that have the highest number of themes noted next to the stock symbol. And over here, there are four stocks that have four themes attached to those stocks. Google being the first one has a short-term theme, which is the style tilt, and it fits into three long-term themes. So it's got a very good ranking within his portfolio. And I agree. Google's my second biggest position in my portfolio. Right behind Google is Meta. Same thing. One short term theme, three long term themes. Next stock, Microsoft. It has four total, two with the short term theme and two with the long term theme. That kind of makes sense. Microsoft's been flourishing. And of course, Palantir is in here. It has four themes attached to it. And Palantir has outperformed the other three that I mentioned. It's doing great. Most definitely short term, it's been a great performing stock. Some stocks with three themes that he has attached, and some of these I'm going to not agree with. First one is Apple. Yeah, I wouldn't touch Apple, but it's interesting that he has Apple listed and in his portfolio. Netflix, yeah, I can't argue with that. Nvidia, can't argue with that. Cadence, yeah, it's pretty good stock. CrowdStrike, I think, is priced a little too high, but I understand. I understand what they're going after, cybersecurity, and then Palo Alto Networks. So that looks good. And then Garmin is down here. Garmin, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, they were really good with navigation. You would buy a Garmin device and it'd be a single purpose device to give you directions. And that one there has me scratching my head. I'm not sure I'm going to buy Garmin anytime soon. And then he has a lot of stocks that have two themes associated with them. Some of these are very recognizable names like Costco, Amazon, GEV, GE, Robinhood is in here, Broadcom, Arista Networks, Goldman Sachs. So it's very tech oriented, very growth oriented. I'm not seeing a lot of financial stocks and industries outside of, really that tech or communication services boom. So that's how he constructed his portfolio. Now let's take a look at his performance. So the Granny Shots portfolio is up 17.23%. Very good rate of return, considering the S&P is up 9.95%. So the fund is beating the S&P by more than full 7 percentage points or 700 basis points. Now, you would be paying a management fee of 0.75%, but the gain outperformance against the S&P more than covers that. It looks like for a little while it was underperforming the S&P earlier this year, but more recently it's outperformed the S&P. So nice job Tom Lee with your Fundstrat Granny Shots portfolio. Tom Lee ranks number 6 among 16 super investors that I track, and he's behind Chase Coleman, that's having a very good year, has a long portfolio of a lot of tech stocks, Rob Vinal, David Tepper, Kathy Wood, and Michael Burry. They're all ahead of Tom Lee, but Tom Lee is in a very respectable position, well ahead of the S&P and ahead of some other big names like Howard Marks, Bill Ackman, Warren Buffett, Einhorn, and Pat Dorsey. So Tom Lee has a very good performance year to date. We'll see how he performs for the remainder of the year. Judging from today's roaring rally, I think a lot of the stocks he owns should continue to do better. Lessons learned from his portfolio. I do like how he looks at themes. I like understanding what's going through his mind as an investor. And I do agree with some of the themes. I don't agree with all the stocks. I think some stocks I would personally stay away from. But it's not about, picking out the differences. It's about trying to understand where he's going with his portfolio so I could draw maybe some knowledge and some direction of where he thinks the market's going. And really glad that I take a look at his portfolio and get to know it. It's also great that he makes his information very accessible. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the many interviews he gives where he shares his observation on the market. I think he's a good guy and he is an asset to investors like myself. And that is Tom Lee. I hope you found it interesting.